Ladies and gentlemen, there are 4 exotic fusion rifles in Destiny 2 currently. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just disregard 1K voices for now. That's more of a planet-destroying super laser that takes heavy ammo, so I'm gonna leave it out of the conversation for this one. Plus, I don't have it. But I really wanted to rank these weapons from worst to best, kinda like I did with the exotic hand cannons a few months ago. But I really don't think it can be done. Well, I mean, it could be done, but I'm not going to sit here and feed you some line of BS about how one is better than the other, because they're all way too unique. See, it worked for hand cannons because they all pretty much do the same thing. You pull the trigger, they shoot a bullet, or 3 if you're talking about Crimson. Each has a characteristic or 2, or 5 if you're talking about Ace, that makes them unique. But how can I make a fair comparison between what is essentially a charged shotgun that shoots hexagon-shaped pellets, and a hand-mounted toaster oven that shoots tracking explosive fireballs across the map? I'm not even gonna try. But I do have a better idea, I think. This'll be fun. I'm gonna assign each fusion rifle a super special code name, we're gonna break down the weapon's capabilities real quick, and assess why you may want to use them. But if you want to drop your rankings down in the comments, feel free. Now, in standard Ironworker form, the information in this video is gonna be solid, but this video will be a little less serious. We'll be covering everything, just not quite in as formal of a manner. But if at any point during the course of this video you find it useful, helpful, or enjoyable, please remember to leave it a like and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel if you're digging the content and you'd like to see more. But let's get things going with a look at our first fusion rifle. First up is Merciless. Codename, I bet you forgot this gun existed. This is a solar high-impact fusion rifle that of the 4 exotics is the most like a standard fusion rifle. But it does have 2 unique benefits. The intrinsic trait for I bet you forgot this gun existed is conserved momentum. Fires faster with each non-lethal shot. And bad news, this perk is busted, which really hurts in PvE. But the Impetus exotic perk gives us a 50% damage buff after a kill, and also has a built-in outlaw function where we reload faster after a kill. And PSA, I bet you forgot this gun existed, is a way better fusion rifle than people give it credit for. Even without the intrinsic trait functional, it still does very good single target damage for a special weapon in PvE. A single burst containing 7 bolts hits for 23,327 points of damage in this controlled test environment. And I bet you forgot this gun existed does have an 8-round magazine, so in a full clip we can deal out 186,312 points of damage. But when under the Impetus damage buff, we'll hit for 35,398 points of damage. You're only going to get 3 to 4 shots off before the buff expires, but it is a very nice increase to the weapon's damage. I forgot this gun existed is also extremely consistent in PvP if you have the catalyst unlocked. This gives the weapon a plus 40 bonus to both range and stability. This high-impact fusion rifle will deal 49 points of damage for each bolt landed, and we'll see damage fall off at the 17 meter mark. But even out at 18 meters, it is extremely consistent. And if you are under the effect of some damage buff, like Impetus, you can stretch this range out a little bit. I've actually hit shots at 25 meters with Impetus procced. Also at base, it is requiring 4 bolts from a spread to land to deal lethal damage. With Impetus procced, we can get the job done with 3. Oh, and also you can one-shot Guardians out of their roaming super, which is cool. And yes, the charge time at 900 is pretty long, but once you develop a feel for it, it's not a major hindrance. And once you master it, you'll be wielding the most consistent fusion rifle on the market, that has definite big play potential built in. If you do enjoy using fusion rifles, do not write off Merciless. It is a very capable weapon in both PvP and PvE. Next fusion rifle on the list is Telesto, codename the Game Breaker, and it has built a reputation for itself doing just that. It has been the source of numerous bugs, glitches, and exploits. And overall, it's probably spent more time disabled than any other weapon in the game. But outside of that, it certainly has its usefulness. This is a Void fusion rifle who falls most in line with the Precision archetype, with a charge time of 780 but only 4 rounds in the magazine. The intrinsic trait is Unplanned Reprieve, states that projectiles will attach and detonate with a delayed void blast. The Game Breaker's exotic perk is Harbinger's Pulse. This will reload your stowed weapons from reserves. And the perk description does need to be updated because, as many of you may know, the fusion rifles used to reside in the heavy slot. But for the stats, we're actually looking pretty nice across the board. Now these projectiles, when they strike a target, will attach and then detonate about a half a second later. But when they land on a hard surface, they'll linger for about 8 to 10 seconds. And when an enemy enters their proximity, then they will detonate. And since these projectiles are 99.9% blast damage, there is no damage fall off. So we have a guaranteed 39 points of damage per projectile. 5 projectiles will be needed to deal lethal damage, but the Game Breaker is packed with utility, including high multi-kill potential. You can set traps around corners, or you can wall off certain entry points, or you can just spray these bullets around like a madman and hope an enemy stumbles into them. And what can be really fun is you light a teammate up with these projectiles, turn them into a void ticking time bomb, and send them on their way. In PvE, auto-reloading your stowed weapons on multi-kills can be useful, but the raw damage is actually the lowest of the 4 exotic fusion rifles. A full burst from the Game Breaker is going to deal 25,928 points of damage, but we only have a 4-round magazine. That's 103,712 points of damage per clip. So while it can be effective in PvE, I'd say it's most useful in the Crucible, especially if you take joy in frustrating the enemy team. You can potentially secure kills from stupid long ranges, and net multi-kills on groups of enemy guardians. And throughout the course of the match, you'll have the whole enemy team being a little more conscientious of where they're walking, especially if you're playing on a tighter map. Is Telesto a little bit on the cheesy side? I mean, sure, but it is definitely an effective tool in the Crucible. Next up is Jotunn, codename the Rage Quit Cannon. Toaster would have been too easy, you know, that's low-hanging fruit. But this weapon invokes, strong feelings amongst many players in the community. This is a solar fusion rifle with a charge time of 860 and 5 rounds in the magazine. The stats here aren't great, making it not a terribly responsive weapon. But believe you me, the intrinsic trait makes up for it. It's Charged Shot. Hold down the trigger to charge up a tracking shot that explodes and burns on impact. Okay, so basically the Rage Quit Cannon shoots a single fireball that has no damage fall off, locks onto a target, explodes on impact, deals short range collateral damage, and drops a short duration damage over time solar puddle on the ground at the point of impact. And in PvE, this weapon is useful and does hit hard. The tracking and lack of damage fall off basically let you use it at unlimited ranges. And the damage per shot is reasonably high, dealing 21,201 points of damage from the blast and impact. And in this case, we're also seeing some solar damage ticks at 828 damage apiece. And even if you disregard the burn damage, this allows Jotunn to hit for 106,005 points of damage for a full 5-round magazine. And the Rage Quit Cannon is a gun that fares very well in Gambit. Useful for burning down tankier targets or as an invasion tool, since it does carry the ability to land a one-hit kill on enemy players. But if you want to crank the hate dial up to 10, go ahead and take it into the Crucible. Some people will downright freak out when a Rage Quit Cannon is on the field. And even if you're halfway effective with this weapon, expect the teabags to be coming fast and furious, and your message box to be filled up with hate mail. And I think a lot of this stems from the fact that people just don't know how to play against it. Once you adopt the correct mindset to play against someone using Jotunn, they're going to become a nuisance, not necessarily a problem. Yes, it's a one-hit kill weapon. Yes, the tracking on it is pretty aggressive. And a player who really knows how to use the Rage Quit Cannon can be extremely annoying. But it can be outplayed once you are aware of its presence. It does have a fairly long charge time, poor handling, and reload speeds, so the wielder is susceptible to be pushed. And the tracking does seem to take some time to kick in, so it's not as effective at closer ranges. Plus, it shoots a slow-moving projectile. If you see it coming at you, move. Is Jotunn a good weapon in PvP? Absolutely. Brokenly overpowered? Definitely not. And last up we have Bastion, codename the Tearjerker. Much like the Rage Quit Cannon, people love to cry about this one too. This is our only kinetic fusion rifle. It has a charge time of 780 and 4 rounds in the magazine. Intrinsically, the weapon fires 3 spreads of kinetic slugs per trigger pull. And due to the exotic perk, a portion of this weapon's damage bypasses elemental shields. And let's take a look at this weapon's shot pattern real quick. Every time the weapon fires, it'll shoot 3 hexagon-shaped spreads of 7 individual slugs. So that's 21 individual slugs in total per trigger pull. In PvE, a single slug is going to deal 1,584 points of damage. So, one full spread is going to deal 11,088 points of damage. 3 spreads from a single trigger pull is dealing 33,264 points of damage. And if you empty your full magazine into a single target, you can deal 133,056 points of damage. And while it is fairly strong in PvE, PvP is where the Tearjerker earned its name, and maybe for good reason. This fusion rifle is quite impressive, but when it released, I bet the Bungie complaint lines were ringing off the hook, with people crying about how some stupid fusion rifle just dropped me full stop in my roaming super. Now, the Tearjerker is extremely powerful. Just one single spread out of the 3 can deal 206 points of damage, enough to down an enemy guardian in one spread. And all you need in the Crucible to drop a roaming super is one trigger pull, no follow-up shots required. And since the damage is so high and we are shooting 3 spreads per trigger pull, the multi-kill potential is high here also. But with all this power comes a trade-off that non-Tearjerker users do not take into account. It's those people who don't think you should be allowed to use anything in PvP except a shotgun and a hand cannon. And you'll have people going around calling this a crutch weapon, as they just played 5 matches without ever holstering their Fellwinters. But Tearjerker is a close range weapon, seeing damage fall off at 14 meters, with a max effective range at about 16 meters. And since it is a fusion rifle, we are dealing with a charge time, meaning you need to have some sort of foresight and anticipation to really be effective with it. Plus, it loses a great deal of accuracy when in the air, so you're going to be far less mobile when using it. This makes it more of a defensive weapon than an offensive weapon. And on top of that, if you're a little bit off target, that burst fires quite slowly, so you're going to be left open to take damage. So there are drawbacks aplenty here, but if you're willing to play to Bastion's strengths and really get a feel for how it needs to be used, this weapon can be very lethal. See, now how was I supposed to fairly rank those weapons? They're all extremely unique, and they all perform very differently and fill different roles. Every one of them is strong in certain aspects, and tend to falter in others. So when someone says, fusion rifles suck, and fusion rifles aren't meta, I chuckle a little bit to myself. And while I will concede the point about fusion rifles not being meta, I feel they can be a strong counter to the meta. But fusion rifles absolutely do not suck. They may not fit into some players' head down hold forward game plan, but when used properly, they can be very strong. And I'll be the first to admit, they do lose some effectiveness in very high level PvP gameplay simply due to the charge time. But that doesn't mean that they can't be effective, and I'd say in probably 95% of the matches you're going to be playing, fusion rifles are just fine. But since you made it to this point in the video, if you did enjoy it, please remember to leave it a like, and at least consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to see more Destiny 2 content presented by yours truly. If you'd like to catch me live, I do occasionally stream on Twitch. I probably should hop on there sometime soon, it has been a while. But if you head over there, look for Ironworker814, drop me a follow, you'll get notified whenever I hop on. To contact me, simply comment down below, I'll be sure to get back to you. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this fusion rifle breakdown. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.